the financing to legal issues. Insightful conversations around building and architecture. Accurate market survey, property valuation, investment guide, and the hottest listings in town.
Twin duplex in Highdown Estate, 1 hectare just beside the main road, 3 bed in that neighborhood. We have that rate, and that is the price of selling as possible.
Join me, your host, One Plot, and the biggest real estate and construction industry players, brands nationwide, an intersection of resource, marketing, and advocacy.
Thursdays, 10 to 10:30 a.m.
on 103.5 FM. Your best offer yet. For inquiries and advert bookings, call 71915-757-0635 or Sam Abu on 02777748880. Landlords on 103.5 $25,000 down payment support for first-time home buyers. That's about 41.5 million in naira. And that brings the question of whether or not government across the board in Nigeria is doing enough with regards to housing for the people. Are the housing policies impactful in reducing the country's housing deficit? We'll look at that and so much more on the Landlords Radio Edition today. Thank you for joining me. One plot is what you should call me as far as the Landlords is concerned. Thank you so much for joining us on radio on Honor 103.5 on the FM. Feels good to be back with you. Don't forget we're online, www.metrocopy.com. You can find us in print. You want further information about the show, how to participate, how to showcase your products and services, just call the numbers you heard, or you come to Honor 103.5 FM. They'll give you, they'll tell you what to do. Today we'll continue with our series Inside Oyo's Built Environment. I've got architect Olufemi Lola Yonekon FNIA, acting chair of the state's built environment professionals under APBN, here with me. We'll talk more about what's happening in Oyo State's built environment, built industry, if you like, inside Oyo's built. Let's put it that way. But before then, let's look at some of the happenings here and there. Construction sites are somewhat quiet as inflation shrinks economic activities. On the one hand, you have real estate prices on the rise as a result of high inflation, while on the other, the people's disposable income is shrinking by the day. So what you have now is slow supply and dwindling demand in Nigeria's housing market. However, the economic turmoil in the country today holds some opportunities for local manufacturers of building materials. This is because as one's purchasing power reduces, there's likely to be a shift of preference and ultimately another purchasing pattern will be formed altogether. Consumers in the building material sector are now forced to consider homemade goods as the imported brands, for obvious reasons, are gradually getting out of reach. They've got no choice. This is a good opportunity for local manufacturers to up their game. I mean, so long as there's a balance between cost and quality, and by extension, safety, there will be increased patronage for local brands of building materials as we progress. I don't know what to say. This is, well, it's a good news, depending on how you look at it, but it's somewhat controversial. We'll see how experts react to this in the coming days. That's talking about the partnership between the World Bank and the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development to tackle the country's land registration issues. There's an estimated $300 billion in untapped capital inherent in the over 90% of land currently untitled in the country. So this new initiative between the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development and the World Bank aims to register all land parcels within 5 years, increase formal land transactions from 10% to 50%, and establish a national digital land information system, NDLIS. You can find more on the ministry's website. We'll talk about this later on. Now, I mean, it's no longer news, the devastating flooding in northern Nigeria. So we've got no choice than to look about this, as I'm now joined by architect Olufemi Lola Yonekon, FNIA, immediate past chair, Nigerian Institute of Architects, Oyo State chapter, who is the acting chairman, Built Environment Professionals in the state. He is the principal partner, Archibest and Consult Limited. Welcome back to the landlords. Quite a lot of events.
Thank you very much.
Between last Thursday and now, chiefly the flooding in the northern part of the country. Who should we blame for this?
Wow. Who should we blame?
Yes.
First, to start with, thank you for having me again. It's
a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to be here, especially to contribute to the built environment and the cityscape of our community. Who should we blame? The flooding.
Yes.
Everybody. Government, the citizen, everybody has a portion. Of course, definitely, we are all aware of the climate change, depletion of the ozone layers, and the irregularity we have already in the timetable of the seasons, where
as a result of climate change.
As a result of climate change, where anything happen. Rain sometimes fall when we least expect. There is heavy downpour as against even some forecast. There is all kinds of, flooding naturally is a combination of the natural and man-made, artificial disruption of event or lineup of operations. So, and once we have that, who should we blame? Everybody. So everybody actually has a part to play. And in recent times, we've seen quite a lot of flooding in African setting, particularly in Nigeria, especially in the northern parts where we have flood in Borno when the dam was overtaken by the heavy rains that happened. I mean, what do we say? What could be the cause? And I think those were things we should speak to. What are the necessary prevention that we could have taken? What are we doing? Does it just happen without a pre-notice? We know that there had been forecasts, there had been informations ahead of time to say to us that there's going to be heavy downpour. In fact, there was a forecast that actually says that there is going to be a heavy rain that's not going to stop for a while.
Let's look at the built environment.
Yeah.
We've talked about some of these things. We talked about some of these things last Thursday. We'll have to talk about them again. Are the actors in the built environment, are they really playing their parts as they should? Are they interfacing with government as much as they should? Especially to look at the landscape of the city, to make sure that construction activities, development is carried out the way it should, that will guarantee safety of the environment.
Yeah, like I said last week, we're playing our part as much as we could. We engage the government. Part of this radio show, activities is advocating, speaking to the issues on ground, to see if we can learn. And
that's why I think that the association should sponsor shows like this.
Yeah, I agree. There should be and the advocacy,
media presence to carry out your advocacy.
Yes, I agree completely. These were things, and we're going to take it up. Like I did say the other time, these are things we need to speak to every time. But beyond even engaging just the professionals, we need to engage the policymakers. We need to bring them to get to understand what are the professionals saying. It's a different ball game to have a courtesy visit, do a show, speak to issues, tender your prayers, and your prayers only stops at the paper presentation.
Because what are the causes of? You spoke about climate change.
Yeah.
That's an entirely different kettle of fish. If we start to talk about climate change, we can't talk about climate change exhaustively without bringing in the experts in that area, the environmentalists and all of that. But let's look at building construction, the landscape, roads, drainages. Do you think that adequate consideration is given for all of these things before developments are carried out across board in Nigeria?
Definitely no. We don't have such as a practice as it stands.
That's why I asked, whose fault is that?
Everybody's fault again.
Everybody.
Yeah. Let me give you a narration. You see, every project should be a byproduct of a research. What are we responding to? What should be the size of even the drainage? What should be the depth? What is the volume of water expected, or what is the closeness of this place to flood prone areas and the like? Do we observe the setback? Who is to observe the setback? Who approves those buildings, or who neglects the duty of monitoring those buildings that are built along either the coastal line, waterways, floodplain areas, as against what should be the normal setback from rivers, or from floodplain, or from river areas? These are things that we should ask ourselves. So, and if we look at this narrative, then both the builder, the professionals, the policy makers, the agencies charged with the responsibility of supervising,
the government agencies,
of monitoring the process in the built environment are all culprits.
Do you think that these things could have been prevented? We're looking at about 1.5 million people
displaced at Bonu.
And we have problems with data. You can't say accurately. I mean, I don't know where people get this data. Data is an issue, so you can't say for a fact that this figure is really what it is.
You see, even up till now, we're still grappling with what is the number of casualty, of dead people.
Because if over 1 million people are displaced in a state, you can imagine, I mean, how many people are left?
That is a major one. There is lamentation all over the social medias of families lamenting, I can't see my people, I can't see my family, I can't
members.
see. It's actually a major, it's been put on record that is about the worst flood in decades. I think over 30 years ago, about 3 decades, we had an experience close to that. But this is very devastating.
But these things could have been prevented.
I agree.
Especially with the right infrastructure in place.
Very well. But again, it's still the duty of everybody. Yeah, it could have been prevented on the part of the government putting the right thing in place. Infrastructures, the right drainages, ensuring that those drainages are periodically maintained.
But the primary actors will be the built professionals and relevant government agencies. Eventually.
Everybody, inclusive of the citizen.
Okay, yes. Especially those that flood the drainages.
Yes, I'm going to give you an illustration.
Before you do that, we'll come back with that illustration after we pick these bills. Thank you for joining us. It's the Landlords Radio edition on Honor 103.5 on the FM with one plot. Yours truly. We'll be right back after this commercial break to continue inside Oyo's built environment. Don't go away.
On 103.5 FM.
You fit fly.
Do you know the key to unlock your dreams of traveling abroad to different destinations like USA, Canada, UK, Australia, and other countries in Europe is at your doorstep?
All you need do is just pitch your tent with You Fit Fly, and we shall show you the world in comfort. Oh yes, we're still leading in ticketing, flight reservation, airport transfer, special vacation, hotel reservation, international travel consulting, tour package, travel insurance, and holy pilgrimage, and others.
If you therefore wish to study abroad or travel to different countries around the world, we are here to give you that opportunity.
At your Fit Fly office,
Block 8, Plot 15, 7 Up Road, Oluyole Main Estate, Ring Road, Ibadan, 0901 111 1190.
Website www.youfitfly.com. With You Fit Fly, you shall see the world in comfort.
Do you need a reliable and super fast unlimited internet for your business and home use? If yes, iWorld Networks is your solution with our uptime affordable internet via fixed broadband. No data caps and throttling. You can enjoy your distance learning, business meetings, and family time with our reliable internet. With 24/7 proactive customer support and 99.8% uptime. We also provide connectivity for offices, schools, financial services, hotels, government, etc. Chat with us on www.iwn.ng. iWorld Networks, we've got you covered. Sign up and get connected today.
The essence of interior design will always be about people and how they live. It is about the realities of what makes for an attractive, civilized, and meaningful home environment. This is our foremost concern at Mr. Johnson Furniture and Interior Decoration, and this is why we stay faithful to your own taste, because nothing you really like is ever out of style. Mr. Johnson Furniture and Interior Decoration, we specialize in importing and delivering quality royal beds, sofas, lights, and doors to every home home across Nigeria. We are located inside Dogafort Filling Station in Leura Junction, Akala Express, Ibadan. Call us up on 080-913-35706 or send a WhatsApp message to 090-445-30230. We don't just sell quality products. Our maintenance team is on standby to give free routine maintenance for a whole year after purchase. Mr. Johnson Furniture, our passion is to bring affordable luxury to every home and offices.
Hello there. A golden opportunity is here for everyone desiring to invest in farming with a prospect of making great profits and creating wealth. This is brought to you
by Safe Casa Realty.
It's a bountiful package where you buy acres of land with palm tree plantations spanning from 1 year to 1.5 years, while you make huge profits from palm oil, PK oil, PKC, animal feeds, and lots more. Both 1 acre of land and palm trees are sold for just 2 million naira. Also, landed properties with cashew and banana plantations are available for instant sales. This landed property with palm tree plantation is located at Areoje along Ibadan Iseyin New Expressway. To therefore enjoy this bountiful package, please call
080-7777-4880.
Buy landed property with palm trees and make great fortunes.
On 103.5 FM.
You are listening to The Landlords, an intersection of marketing, resource, and advocacy for the real estate and building construction industries in Nigeria. For your brand promotions, ad placements, live appearances, and other inquiries, please contact 091-575-70635. 091-575-70635.
Thank you so very much for your time. We appreciate you. We're still looking inside of yours built environment, but we have to, from time to time look at the country as a whole. That's how you get to, get a clear view of what's happening in the environment. And I'm still with Architect Olufemi Lolaoye Nekon, FNIA, immediate past chairman, Nigerian Institute of Architects, Oyo State, acting chairman, Built Environment Professionals in Oyo State, is the principal partner, Archibest and Consort Limited. Thank you once again for your time. You were going to say something before we went on the break.
Yeah, thank you again. I was going to put in a clearer narration the responsibility of everybody.
In ensuring a safer built environment.
And especially when it comes to, we're actually speaking to the issues of the floods. And like I was going to say that it brought me to an incident that happened about 2-3 years ago. I was driving to drop my children in the school, and I saw a very beautiful Benz or a Jeep, I've forgotten exactly the made, and parked alongside the road on the street, and the wife came down, or a matured woman came down, went to the boot and picked a bag of baggage to drop on the drains. I went after them.
Refuse.
Refuse, and dropped on the drain. I went after the vehicle. Goodness enough, I was able to stop, get them at the very gate of the school, and so quite a few people came around. So that was like my boldness again, and I said, sorry, something just happened there. I wouldn't even know what exactly you dropped, but then it is wrong that you have dropped. So, and he said to me, the man at the wheel, who probably is the husband, said to me, everybody does that. I said, what? I said, the more reason why you will turn back. So by that time, a lot of people, other people had gathered around, said, if this is the way we want this country to be run, then we don't seem to have a future. So we all compelled him to turn back.
To pick the dirt.
No, he ran away.
He ran away?
With his car, yeah. Because we were also going to turn and of course join him and go to the place, because it's already a few distance away from where he dropped it. So he sped off, and that was how he ran away. But somehow I was just pleased that I was able to. But how many of that do we have? We see
I
them
think
everywhere.
that if for instance, the Ministry of Environment, they will need to be proactive. They will need to do a lot of advocacy, sensitization, all of those things to prevent people from, they don't know. Look at the issue of climate change.
You see, I agree that
For instance,
they need to go advocating, but beyond advocating, we already said there is a proactive way to go about this.
That's
thing.
it.
We need to set up a task force.
Task force.
We call it environmental task force, and it should be similitude to FRSC. FRSC starts like a society thing, everybody coming together, just let's make sure that our roads are safe and the likes. And before we know it, the government saw the genuity and the whatever, and it developed and it became a government-owned establishment.
There should be a task force.
There
for
should
the
be an
environment.
environmental task force as a matter of urgency. If we're going to curb flooding, this incessant and collapse of building, all of those degradations on unplanned settlements, we need to, as a matter of urgency, set up an environment. And that environmental task force will be a composition of everybody.
Stakeholders.
The stakeholders, the landlord, the citizen, the professionals, and wherever, such that you are empowered to report, and there is a place you can report to, and there will be an urgent reaction.
Do you think we are safe in Oyo?
In terms of
flooding, this is the time for it.
Honestly, the government is actually doing a lot of opening up of canals, reconstructions of waterways, driving through Oyo, particularly in Ibadan. I see quite a lot. Is it sufficient? Maybe no, because as at when May or June, there was one heavy downpour. I don't want to be too specific, but around Orogun in Ojo, that was
some parts of Olodo as well.
Yes, that was overtaken by
flood,
even with the drainage and the canal that is already constructed. So maybe because it's not yet completed, maybe that, or maybe we don't have enough. Then again, beyond constructing, what is the management process put in place? Because some of those canal and that the ones that are already completed, we see them already littered with rubbish, with all kinds of silt
materials, even dangerous to the environment.
Do we silt? Is there a way we prevent the place to be flooded with dirt and the stuff? People, is a natural place for the lawless citizen to drop their rubbish into the place without any check.
Government, in the end, government will need to be proactive to be able to.
Rain was going to fall. Excuse me, let me quickly look at this. There was a part along my community. The rain was going to, and I was just watching with disdain. I saw more than 2, 3, 4 different set of people. While they saw that the rain was going to fall, so they began to sweep the compound
because they think that
into the drainage.
Ignorance.
So we're actually, and not knowing that these debts were already gathering, we will be gathering up to go to a place, block the waterways, and there will be a lot of flood.
Well, relatively safe, or
yes, I think we're actually flooding. Really responding. We're responding to the issue of flood.
I think what should be next now is sensitization.
Beyond that is for us to respond to the research, the data, if we do have. Have we done enough? Well, what we want to do is, I haven't spent these millions of dollars or billions of nairas into these constructions. We don't want to have such experience again.
No.
So what do we do abating this, mitigating against the reoccurrence, even after all of this spending? Probably is doing an enforcement. What do we do to those living along the fleet who already built? What measure, what is the plan of the government? Some of them got those building approved.
Yes, we know that there's a big problem with the approval processes for building construction in Nigeria. We know that, especially a situation where people get approvals to build in the wrong places. Is there anything that can be done about this, especially where people are not penalized?
Permit me to quickly lend my voice to that. The problem is not bigger than what we could handle. It's as simple as setting up the right environment. This building approval process is the responsibility of all stakeholders. Permit me to put, I don't have the right figure, but approved building, even in the environment, is less than the unapproved. We have
most buildings are not approved.
Most building cut across all strata. Religious building not exempted, industrial, all kinds of building. One of the ways to look at it is you see a building that was already marked stop work for non-compliance to the approval process or whatever, but go and check through. After a short while,
the work will continue.
Because something probably had happened. So quite a lot of buildings in Ibadan, in Oyo State, in Nigerians.
In Nigeria, I understand what you're saying, and I think it's also an ample time for us to tell people listening: if you're yet to get your building approval done, you can go now. The Oyo State government started an amnesty program.
Yeah.
I mean, this is free ad for the government. Started an amnesty program. You can go there, go to the website. There's a special website, or you go to the website for the Ministry of Lands. See how you can partake of this to register your building, because I know that demolition might start again.
The sensitization for this
amnesty
after
yes, it's not enough.
It's not enough. Ask an average homeowner
if they are aware.
If they are aware, they don't. So there should be a lot of public enlightenment, community engagement, speaking to all the landlords. What we see is they come around and put a land use charge and whatever. But if we're really interested in getting those buildings approved, we hit the waves, go to their meetings, sensitize them, and before we know it, it will create a lot of...
It's always a web, when you're talking about governance in Nigeria, it's always a web of issues. It's always you are talking about sensitization.
Yeah.
Some of these agencies or ministries will tell you there's no budget. We don't know how true this is. For publicity of some of the activities, especially the ones that the people should know of, they will tell you there's no budget. How do you not have budget for the media, for some of these key functions that you need to carry out?
I doubt if that will be completely true, that there will be no budget for
media and publicity for some of these arms and organs.
Anyway, I might not be able to speak directly to that, but the truth is it is a response. If we're going to start campaign, there will be budget. There will be all kinds of media shows and whatever. It is basically setting our priority right. If we set the priority right and see it as what we should do, we'll get into it. Should we say there is no budget to sensitize the people towards this amnesty? This is a program that will probably, for this approval, this is a program that will probably get more revenue for the government.
It will, yes, it will. It will. I think that one is to call a spade a spade.
I think the government is hearing.
Of course,
and average, even the professionals, gather a crowd and do a survey, you discover that quite a number of them do not even know that there is an amnesty.
They need to do more in publicizing some of these things, sensitizing the people against the dangers or the idea of climate change, so back to the issue of a safe built environment and some of these things and some of the activities, and then the environment will be safer eventually.
At the same time, anyway, I was actually going to look at even this approval, the call for amnesty for approval, whatever, is it not going to, in the long run, be adverse to the ongoing disruption in the built environment?
How do you mean?
There is a lot of settlements that ordinarily should not be approved.
That's back to the issue of town planning. If there's a master plan, that's why I said there is a web of issues. I mean, this thing, you're thinking of Nigeria. You're not even sure what the problems. There are challenges everywhere, and you start to wonder what we've been doing since independence. We don't even. You can't. The stakeholders who should know can't say that this is the plan that's in use and all of these things. But let's just try and rest there. Let's move on to the issue of subsidy. You heard what the Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris, what she said at the presidential candidates of the Democrats, what she said about $25,000 down payment for citizens. That's about 40-something million naira for new homeowners in the United States of America. And we are talking about subsidy. If the government says that they won't subsidize fuel, if that's what it is, they can't subsidize fuel, right? Because of the bottlenecks and the issues around the controversy around it. Can't they subsidize something else? For instance, housing.
The truth is, on paper, I said the same thing last week. We have this program, there will be subsidy for housing, especially affordable housing. But how affordable are these affordable housing? Then who eventually are the owners of this affordable housing? Did they actually get to
the masses? To
the masses or to the targeted audience? That's where the problem is. Going back to corruption. Why in the first place did the government remove the subsidy for the whatever? Because it was said that a few people are the people benefiting from the subsidy. What should have been a benefit to the entire populace, and now is being. So how do we check it? I am actually of opinion that completely removing subsidy abruptly, just instantly, is not the way to go.
We removing subsidy and not putting it anywhere else is an issue.
Is an issue.
Because if you take away subsidy from petrol and all of that, and you put it into housing, or you put it into transportation, one way or the other,
then again, in fact, I felt is a misplaced priority. Personal opinion. I felt you are entering into the governance, and the first thing is to create a system that will have a ripple effect. You know, the reason why the removal of subsidy had a ripple effect on us is the fact that petroleum is our mainstay, and because of that, the moment we have any increase in that direction, every other thing escalates.
So you think that housing subsidy cannot work too?
It could work, but have we solved the loopholes? Have we blocked the possible exit point? Do we penalize anybody for doing wrong? We have it on paper. It's a policy by the government that housing
one way or the other. But you see, another issue is when the Nigerian government at the federal and state levels, when they are thinking of Nigerians, they are thinking of civil servants.
That's another problem.
They are thinking only of civil servants. Minimum wage, they are thinking of housing, they are thinking of civil servants.
Yeah.
But what is the percentage of civil servants amongst the populace is a question. So I think that housing policy should be a thing, because we are close to having a housing crisis in Nigeria. Look at what rents.
We already have it.
Look at what rents are. People can't live. And there's also this other issue now with transportation. People that have moved to their houses in the suburbs are forced to come back to town because they can't transport themselves.
Yeah.
So if someone left the center of town because of high rent rate to quickly just put a bungalow together for, say, some 3, 4, 5 million naira just to stay there, and they can't come to town anymore, they now are forced to come back to town to come and be faced with the challenge that they tried to avoid in the first place.
That was why over the time when there was a time I had to grant a particular interview, and I did say I think, while I believe that subsidizing our fuel and allowing the money to go into a few set of people is a wrong practice. But then I think at the same time that the removal of this subsidy is not timely. There are things that we should have put in place before the removal, and that will probably have helped. The current increase, because NNPC, as we speak today, is selling at the rate of probably 850 or 900, and other stations are already selling at probably 1,100, 1,200, and definitely the prices of goods and commodity is going to come up.
They are trying to put these funds into the provision of infrastructure for the country. That's what they said. They said that, okay, we'll take away subsidy, we'll put it back into infrastructure to try and reduce the country's infrastructure deficit, which is alarming. And then you have projects like the Lagos-Calabar coastal road springing up. It's a good idea, but look at the timeliness of the Lagos-Calabar coastal road. It makes for easy, it's going to create a local economy along that route. It also makes for easy transportation alternative to having to fly or something like that. But then look at which would have been better, trillions of naira for that road or trillions for housing.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
Even going outside of that, what had happened to Lagos-Ibadan Express Road?
It's I think it's 75 to 80% near completion.
For how long?
For decades. So you think that might eventually become an abandoned project?
No, it's already abandoned.
I mean, even the Lagos-Calabar coastal.
No, I want to speak to Lagos-Ibadan. Lagos-Ibadan is a project of running to 20 or over 20 years. That's a project we've not commissioned.
Yes.
And as we speak today, the contractors are off the road.
Different contractors from one to the other.
They are completely off the road with all their signage, with everything abandoned. And so, when are we going to finish that? Why are we starting a new project when we have not exhausted, we've not completed the one that we have started? And this road is not just a road. It is our economic route.
So you think that is a waste of, more or less?
I don't see the rationale. So
especially at this time.
We all know the volume of money that will be going into constructing that coastal. Is it a good project? Fantastic. Yeah.
But not now.
Not now.
We're just trying to look at government policies at the federal and state levels, how they affect housing, because at the end of the day, you can't have a safe built environment without adequate shelter for the people.
Yeah.
But talking about government policies revolving around housing and then by extension the built environment and industry, the World Bank is to partner with the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development to tackle the country's land registration issues. They said there's an estimated $300 billion in untapped capital inherent in the over 90% of land currently untitled. This new initiative with the World Bank aims to register all land parcels within 5 years, increase formal land transactions from 10% to 50%, and establish a national digital land information system. That's NDLIS. Where are the Nigerian experts in the built industry? Those that will have much to do with land administration, that we can't handle this and we need to bring in the World Bank.
Anyway, I think the intervention of the World Bank can be considered also from the two lights. It can be positive and it can also have its negative effect. Of course, over the years,
we need the IMF, we need the World Bank to get involved with everything we do in this country.
But they've been the source of. They've been sponsoring most of our projects.
So he who pays the piper.
Of course. Then again, it's like a situation of we've not been able to settle this. We've not been able to have a proper land administration process
across the board.
So if, for me as a professional, if it is going to positively impact us, why not? Of course, none of this will be done without the involvement of the professionals.
We tend to always look outside for the solutions to our problems at home. Look at how it is now. The vendors, distributors of building materials are saying that people are now forced to consider local manufacturers, local brands for their building materials, which was not the case. They always want imported. Now they are forced to consider, I have to complete this project. Let me buy tiles made in Nigeria. Let me buy roofs made in Nigeria and stuff like that. Why do we always look outside before we look inside? We have such as several associations under the APBN who are well schooled. They have adequate exposure. They have adequate experience with some of these issues, especially bordering on land administration, and we still have to bring in the World Bank.
You see, the way to respond to this will be that one, government, everything stop at the decks of the government. If the professionals, in-house professionals, Nigerian professionals are not involved, I really do not share the sentiment that all of these things cannot be done, but somehow
done from within.
We can handle quite a lot of. But the other way around it is that the funding issue. This issue of land administration covers the entire country. So who is going to initiate?
But
where do we get the funding?
Is it not a little dangerous for you to start to involve international bodies in procurement of land and things bordering on land? I know that at a point in the US, in some states, they became bothered by the way the Chinese were coming to invest in their real estate, in their land, and they had to create laws around that. But we are now beginning to even invite an international organization to get involved in our land administration. Isn't that a little...
for me, really, it is a dangerous trend. And I had actually advocate that this is actually the next level of slavery.
Because look at their involvement with the economy, the IMF, their involvement with power. Look at what's happening with the power sector
of slavery.
No solutions inside, just increment of tariff, and now they're going into land again.
We would have actually engaged them to ask a lot of questions.
You should.
What will be the solution? How do we handle the vulnerable people? How do we handle the issue of the settlement that are already existing? Because by the time we're done with it, of course, cost of landed properties is going to go.
Because I mean, if you're bringing in the World Bank now to help you harness over $300 billion in untapped capital inherent in over 90% of land currently untitled, I'm beginning to wonder, is it not like they're coming to try to get back some of those loans one way or the other from land acquisition, from land, from real estate, which is going to be an issue? Because look at what housing is. Without any kind of involvement, people can't even pay some of these fees, and that's why the government is talking about amnesty for people for building. So once you now bring in the World Bank again into,
the cost is going to go skyrocketed.
That's the end game. I mean, they're already talking about $300 billion there. You know how they can get it from the people.
Before we know it, housing or landed property will not be available or affordable to the ordinary masses.
For the masses. So
in any way, we might actually consider both the merit and demerit.
What's the
because
merit?
the merit,
the merits, the advantages,
the advantages.
I want to know.
The truth is, this is what we've been doing for a while. As in, we've been doing the administration of the landed property for a while, and we've not gotten any headway. We have unregularized settlement spread all over. Who should have copped that? But I'm sure that with this introduction, you can't just do any. It will force us into implementing our master plan.
I know that the World Bank has been interested in our built environment.
We have the land, so they will naturally.
The environment has,
yeah.
well, if talking about flooding, for instance,
Yeah.
I know that they do a lot of funding for states to prevent flooding, interventions here and there. But this is looking kind of different. Is this not payback time? $300 billion, and then the World Bank wants to come in to partner with the government. Where are the experts, and will there be transparency?
That's where it could be a big loophole to escalate corruption. That's the truth. If care is not taken, is another avenue to take the corruption system to the next level. But speaking to it might, in the long run, give us some the kind of environment, especially in a system where, here in our system, everybody wants to build, and we build without recourse to the building codes or regulations, approval systems, and the likes. So probably if that is put in place, the only issues I have is engaging the professionals. Let's dot all the I's.
That's my
let's
point.
Cross all the T's.
That's my
and
point.
let's look at the demerit as against the merit. Eventually, it might help regulate our cityscape.
Especially if it's going to be outside of
it will mean that in a few years to come, just everybody
but
will
eventually,
be able
in
to.
summary, it means what the government, the stakeholders in the built industry or built environment, what they feel to do, that's government and practitioners such as yourself, what you people have failed to do over the years, you now need the World Bank to come and help you out. That's the summary.
Of course, it's looking like that.
That is what it is.
However, like I said,
and anytime you bring
leaders,
in these international organizations,
leaders,
you know what eventually happens.
I want to maintain that the leaders, they govern, take the lion shares of the blame.
The people,
the leaders,
those in power.
Why? The successes of anything or the failure lies on the table of the leader,
of the government, eventually.
Of the government. Now, if the people are not adequately engaged, we've requested for quite a lot of things. The question again is, why are these things not working? It's political. Many times.
How do you mean?
I can cite instances of even buildings that we have actually had to question. Why should this building come up here now?
But you find out the person is influential.
Before we know it, said from authority from above says we should let go.
I know that you can't talk exhaustively about the state government's social housing policy.
Yeah.
But what do you think of housing development in your state, generally?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of developments ongoing. Yes. Like I said, even last week, quite a lot of them scattered around the states, particularly in Ibadan where I lived. I know quite a lot. At Ajoda House, the Ajoda housing scheme
by the private sector and by government too.
Is a PPP program. The one along the new Oyo Ibadan Express, and even the current government is actually doing what we call the Omititun scheme, housing estate, trying to dot the cities, the different parts of the state with development. But how good we are on it is the problem. How reachable is even the landed property? We see quite a few in the city, which I'm particularly not in support. What we should do is actually reach out to the suburb and force development to go into those places. But the cityscape is already crowded, and we are overcrowding. And even the cost, you can imagine what's the cost of a plot in Basharun here.
You're looking at 25-30 million thereabout.
Where?
Basharun.
Maybe that should be 6 months after the inception.
But how much is it now if you want a plot of land around Basharun?
Maybe 95.
Are you serious? A plot of land in Bodija is a plot of land around Bodija is
you can do your search
around 40 if you can even find.
You can do your search now. A plot of land in Adigun, wherever, Leria Adigun, wherever, will be a minimum now 80 and above.
So how will the poor man build his house eventually now?
That's the question.
Things are going.
Where did we start from?
And that brings me to my last question for you, because of our time. We have less than 2 minutes to do this. What do you think is the solution? There are so many problems, but let's choose one to affordable housing in Nigeria.
You can't do without the professionals.
If you are to achieve affordable housing,
you can't do without, because it's a combination of all inputs. For instance, affordable housing starts from even the design, choice of materials, building technologies, building methodologies, and before we know it, we can achieve all of this. We did a competition about a few years back, 2013, 2014, or before 2016, and it's on affordable housing. We want to give a solution to it, and we began from design. We gave ourselves a very tight, do a design on 75 square meters, and we did. Some got the
smaller houses, very
functional. You had everything, and that time it could be built with 1.8 million.
What kind of
apartment? A 3-bedroom.
3-bedroom.
But this is a 3-bedroom. I must be honest with that. A 3-bedroom, not
the
kind of 3-bedroom you want.
Like
you want all your rooms to be all en suite. You want all toilets in all the rooms.
But if you are talking about affordability, you can't start to think of luxury.
Exactly the point. So, and you just need to make do with what we have.
We'll be expecting the built angle professionals under the APBN to partner with us to see how we can further showcase, the association, the professionals, and ensure that there's adequate interface with government to ensure that your advocacy thrives, succeeds. We're open to that, conversations that will take us further in that direction here on the landlords, and I'm sure that Honor 103.5 FM too will be all out for that. Thank you so much, Architect Olufemi Lola Oyenekon, FNI, immediate past chairman, Nigerian Institute of Architects, Oyo State Chapter, acting chair, Built Environment Professionals in Oyo State. Is the principal partner, Archibest and Consult Limited. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll try and get the town planners to come as we continue our look at Oyo's built environment. My name is One Plot. For the purpose of this program, just call me One Plot. It's the landlords, an intersection of marketing, resource, and advocacy for the built industry. I'll be with you by the grace of God Almighty next Thursday from 10 till about this point. On behalf of Mr. Steven, my studio manager, the social media crew, and everybody else here on Honor 103.5 FM, I wish you a lovely day. Take care.